1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show is called First Things First. And my first thing today and every day is giving thanks to God, asking for God's blessings, the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and stirring the pot, stirring the pot. That's what we do around here. You know, I so appreciate you waking up with me every morning or however many mornings you check in. If you haven't stopped by YouTube yet, we're streaming live each day, excuse me, from the entire show, 6 to 9, we're streaming. And that's got a robust and fun chat where you can talk with other folks who are part of our First Things First KBLA delegation. So you can do that. If you missed the conversation with DA contender Nathan Hochman on yesterday, you can get it wherever you get podcasts. You can also see it on YouTube because all of our YouTube stuff is archived. You go to the KBLA 1580 YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, comment. All that stuff is good. All of it helps us, stay in business too, by the way. And you can find me at DiPrima Radio. That's DIPRIMA. And then radio. I know you guys like to call me Dupree or whatever. Just call me. It's all good. But if you're trying to find me, you need to spell it DIPRIMA. Then radio, please like, subscribe, and comment. And yeah, we got a lot to cover today as usual. But as usual, the phone lines are opened. The virtual red, black, and green carpet is available to you. And this is important to me because I love to have dialogue more than monologue. So feel free, 800-920-1580. Hour one, we typically do what's happening on the left coast. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person of interest or a hot topic. And today we're on that schedule. Freedman Fridays, we do it a little differently because we focus on reparations in hour two. And we have an interesting scholar joining us tomorrow for that conversation. So we have a full agenda as always. And in the third hour today, I'm going to be talking with Alec Baer, who is one of the filmmakers, editor-directors behind this film called Bad Faith. It's a Netflix film. It is quite powerful. So I'm excited about talking to Mr. Baer, and the conversation really does tie into this election season because one of the things he's touching on is, well, not one of the things, the main focus of the film is how these Christo-fascists, as some folks dub them, the far-right element of the Christian community has really burrowed deep into political spaces. And so it's very relevant and super eye-opening. I'll tell you that. Looking forward to the conversation. Right now, checking in, tap, 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 real quick. I know he's got a lot going on this morning. He's the founder of the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute. He's also my colleague here at KBLA. The Black Lives Matter has a show on Saturdays, 8 to 10. It's a great show. It's called This Is Not a Drill. This particular person is National Field Director for Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is the actual Black Lives Matter. And he is a lead organizer for BLM LA. Akili, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique, and good morning to the KBLA family, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, Akili, thank you so much for showing up, like you always do, in the clutch. So, look, I know you have this institute, the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute. A lot of time when you come on, we're talking about BLM and BLM things because, well, you're really active in that organization. But this week you have a special thing going on for Fannie Lou Hamer. So talk about what that is and who she is. It was really interesting at the Democratic National Convention how often she was invoked. It was like a tribute after tribute to Shirley Chisholm and Fannie Lou Hamer.
And that was appropriate. That was well done. Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer was a leader in the civil rights and human rights movement. She's from Ruralville, Mississippi. She was a sharecropper, but she had a unique spirit and talent that that helped advance the civil rights and human rights movement, in this particular voting rights movement. And the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute was started to promote, support, and advance the legacy and contribution and leadership of Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. And she is one of those persons that there's a direct line from Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer to Shirley Chisholm to Jesse Jackson to Barack Obama to the current nominee. There's a direct line because what Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer did in 1964 was open up the Democratic Party, was challenge the Democratic Party to include black people, quite frankly, black voters. And she was a sharecropper. She was a person who believed in civil rights and stood up for it. And I have often asked myself the question, could I have done what she did? I mean, she was a powerful and courageous person who deserves to be constantly recognized, honored, and promoted. And so her birthday is October 6th. She would have been 107 years old. And, of course, we want to celebrate her birthday. So this Saturday, October 5th, we're going to be celebrating her birthday, listening to her in her own words, listening to her talk about the need for voting rights, and just paying tribute to her. We are fortunate to have Yasmin Monique Watkins with us, the BLM poet laureate, and she's going to be there. And we're going to be discussing many of the critical propositions on the ballot, on the November ballot. Prop A, Prop 6, Prop 36, Prop 35, the rest of them. Because part of what the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute wants to do is not only remember and acknowledge Mrs. Hamer's contributions, but we also want to educate people in the community, but particularly around election time, around critical issues. So we're looking forward to having a good time recognizing, celebrating, and remembering Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, but also having some discussions about critical propositions that are on the November ballot.
Which is important. We all need to get educated, and hopefully educated by multiple sources. But when you say 1964, you're talking about the Democratic National Convention in 1964, where Fannie Lou Hamer gave a speech calling out the Democrats, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she did. And listen, it was so powerful. And many people were so concerned. The President of the United States was so concerned about her testimony before the Credentials Committee of the Democratic National Convention that he called a press conference right when she was testifying. And the news people just literally picked up and went to his press conference because he was concerned about the impact that it would have. And he was running for re-election, and he was concerned that what the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party was demanding would overshadow and cause his candidacy some problems. So he called a press conference to announce that it had been 6 months since the killing of President John F. Kennedy, and that he wanted to recognize that. And it backfired on him because what the news networks did was replay her whole speech almost on a loop because they felt that they were being taken advantage of. That's how powerful she was, that a president, was concerned about her making a presentation.
I mean, a president worried about a black woman sharecropper making a speech in 1964 says a whole lot. One quote from that speech that she made, our challenge as Americans is to make sure that this experiment called democracy is not just for the landed gentry or the wealthy, but it is for everybody. And I think that still applies. We're still working on that. And the fact that she would be, what did you say, 107?
7 today.
107, and
7 on
October 6th, you said.
6, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, the fact that that it's so close in our history that she could still be living. I mean, I have a great aunt who passed away at 107 last year. Well, 108 actually last year. So, Mama Lise, rest in peace. It just shows you. I think it's so important. It's like when I look at the photograph of my dad as a little kid standing next to my granddad, standing next to my great grandma, standing next to my great great grandma who was enslaved and was released from enslavement on a plantation by the Emancipation Proclamation. The fact that there's a photograph of that for generations, it's just a reminder, and I think it's important for us to remember this has only been a very short time that we've even, had the pretense of having rights.
Yes. And certainly I can remember a lot of I grew up in the segregated South at the height of Jim Crow. And so in my lifetime, I can go from Emmett Till in 1955 to Trayvon Martin. And there's a direct line and all in between. And so part of the need to remember and recognize people who were certainly a part of the civil rights movement, because that was a critical era for Black liberation. It opened up the society in ways that in many ways folks didn't even think could happen. And we all remember Dr. King and Ralph Avenett, Reverend Ralph Avenett, and people who have made serious contributions. And I'm glad that we do. But sometimes we may not always remember, recognize, and acknowledge those people who were there, who were foot soldiers. I mean, one of the questions I asked myself, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer registered to vote. And
lost her job because of it. I mean, was fired from a plantation, right? Yeah.
Well, not only job, but she was put off the plantation. She was made homeless that night.
For registering to vote.
Yeah. For registering to vote.
Yeah.
The story she tells is that, the plantation owner came up to her and asked her, did she register to vote? And she said yes. And he told her to go down and take her name off the rolls. And she said, well, I didn't register for you. I registered for me. And of course, that incensed the white plantation.
No doubt, no doubt.
And he put her off the plantation that evening.
Talking with Akili, and we'll let you know how you can get to this event. Just a fascinating conversation. I think that informs today's urgency in getting our act together for November of 2024. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelinos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, this is why it's your ancestors' favorite radio station, because they are in the conversation, and the ancestor in the conversation right now is Fannie Lou Hamer, who, the more I learn, the more I admire her. And she was, they were looking for delegates to be seated at the convention from the Freedom Democratic Party. They finally were offered 2, and they said that was too little too late. But whatever happened to Freedom Democrats?
Well, they went back and ran. They actually had their own convention. I was lucky enough to go to Jackson, Mississippi a number of times and see the places where and hear the stories about them having their own convention and educating people about the need to not only register to vote, because registering to vote in those days was difficult and scary. You could lose your job or your life if you tried to register to vote. And they had their own convention. They elected their own delegates. And later on, they ran their own candidates for Congress. And 4 years later, and what their demand was that that black people be seated as delegates from Mississippi, as legitimate delegates to the Democratic National Convention. They had gone through the process. They had done what was required. They had registered people to vote. And, of course, the Mississippi white delegation refused to do that. And so Mrs. Hamer was there to testify about the democratic process that she and others in Jackson and Mississippi had gone through, and that they deserved to be a part of the Democratic Convention. And they protested outside. They sang, they picketed. They did a number of things to make their presence known. And 4 years later, in 1968, they had opened up the party, and they had black delegates. And the Voting Rights Act had been passed after that, and more black people began to become a part of the Democratic Party. But it was because of the challenge that Mrs. Hamer and the Freedom Democratic Party made that opened up the Democratic Party. And that's why I say that there's a direct line from Mrs. Hamer to Shirley Chisholm, because had she not fought to open up the party, Mrs. Chisholm may not even been elected, let alone running for president in 1972. And then from that to Jesse in 1984 and 88, and from Jesse to Obama in 2008, and from Obama to Harris, where we are now. But she challenged, she confronted, she opened the door so that this could happen. And so that much of the the black representation that you see within the Democratic Party today is because of Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer.
Thus, all of the tributes to her. It's an interesting take on the potential role of a third party too, right? Because in this case, the third party forces one of the two mainstream parties to accept black folks, really, and broaden their base. Even though they might not have had a candidate run and win, it has a lasting impact on the mainstream Democratic Party.
It has, and like I said, I draw the line from Mrs. Hamer to Mrs. Chisholm to Jesse. I mean, and Jesse's campaign, both in '84 and '88. I mean, Jesse brought in over 3 million voters into the Democratic Party. And if there's anybody that opened the door for Barack Obama, it was Jesse Jackson. So there's these connections, there's these direct links, there's these direct lines, because we've had to struggle as a people to make sure that we benefit from a society that we help build and contribute to. And certainly the Democratic Party, I mean, and what I find interesting, in 1988, Ron Brown was the chair of the Democratic Convention, and Jesse ran that year, Al Gore ran that year, Biden ran that year. And this recent convention, one of the administrators, one of the leaders within Jesse's campaign in 1984 and 88, Mignon, was the director of the National Democratic Convention in this year.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, well, there's a few other things I wanted to run by you. We're not going to probably have time to get to all of them because we just have a couple minutes here for news, traffic, and sports. And I believe you're off to a press conference about reparations this morning that's taking place in front of Governor Gavin Newsom's office. So tell folks how they can come to that, the teach-in on the ballots and the celebration of Mrs. Hamer's B-Day.
It's going to be Saturday, October 5th at 4 p.m. at 4276 Crenshaw Boulevard. It's right next to the McDonald's at the community-owned center, and it's easy to find. And, you know, we're going to be discussing the propositions and celebrating Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. And I want to thank our co-sponsors, the BLMLA, the Black Power Network, SCLC, and Students Deserve. They've all worked with us to help us put this on. But come out and join us. It's this Saturday, 4 p.m., 4276 Crenshaw Boulevard.
Okay, well, that's something to do this weekend. It's a busy weekend, but what a great way to spend your time getting ready for the voting, which actually starts, I think, in L.A. the 7th of October or something. The early voting.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yes. So good timing on that. Well, we only have about a minute here, so I'm gonna forego my millions of questions that I have for you, and just let you spend it how you will.
Well, very quickly, I just want to continue to promote Mrs. Hamer and the legacy, and remind our friends and family who are listening to us that we have to remember the people who walked before us, who walked the bridge before us, because they opened doors. They made it possible for us to be in the conditions we are now for the advancement. So come out and join us. But more importantly, think about your role, your responsibility, and your capacity in this democracy and what you can do. And that, so one of the things that's easy to do is, of course, to vote and vote your consciousness. One of the things that I'm always struggling with is we say that that we pick lessers of evils, and I don't want to pick evils anymore. But I do want to encourage people to live up to their own commitment and participate in this democratic process.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to talk with you, Akili, and you can find him. I think it's Akili for the People on Instagram.
Yes. Yes.
All right, we've got news, traffic, and sports. Then we're taking your phone calls, and I've got a few crazy things going on here on the left coast that I want to share with you when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Good morning. It's the third day of October. I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A Florida teenager accused of killing her grandmother is facing adult charges. Prosecutors say the 14-year-old girl hit her 79-year-old relative multiple times with a belt and used her grandmother's walker as a weapon during the attack. New details have been released related to former President Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The filing alleges Trump described some of the claims of the election fraud as crazy behind closed doors. Trump's lawyers say the filings would improperly influence the election and that it violates the Department of Justice policies. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get your home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime. Download the Lowe's app to find what you need today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers will play the San Diego Padres in the National League playoffs. The Padres beat Atlanta last night 5-4 to advance. Game 1 in the best of 5 is Saturday at Dodger Stadium. The Padres have been tough on the Dodgers this season, winning 8 of 13 games. As the NFL heads into Week 5, the league's 6 black head coaches are 15-10. Pittsburgh's Mike Tomlin, Houston's D'Amico Ryan, and Tampa Bay's Todd Bowles are 3-1. Raheem Morris of Atlanta and Antonio Pierce of the Raiders are 2-2. New England's Gerard Mayo is under 500 at 1-3. Adidas is getting ready to release a special edition of the Crazy 8 Low sneaker for 5 HBCU schools. The shoe was part of the endorsement deal Kobe Bryant had with Adidas in the late 1990s. Adidas has designed a new version of the shoe featuring the logo and school colors of Alabama State, Alcorn State, Grambling, Prairie View, and Arkansas Pine Bluff. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So, how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma season because we typically see a spike in asthma-related hospitalizations? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
That morning chill means truck season.
5 more minutes.
No snoozing. Do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the class-leading range of the Silverado EV.
Talking to me?
Work, play, hauling, off-roading, a Chevy truck can take it all.
Okay, I'm up.
It's Chevy Truck Season. Get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 10/31/24.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Chevy, all the things 2024 Truck Season Radio 30, code GWMR0294000.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You'll be able to, or you can even just With impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains, Chevy trucks have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, thank you very, very much. And look, now's a great time to call in. I mean, it's 12 kinds of crazy right now, and I'm talking left coast. I barely know where to start, and I want to catch you up on some of these things and see if you want to talk it out. Like, okay, in the valley, the San Fernando Valley, 42 members of a white supremacist gang were arrested yesterday. 42 members of a white supremacist gang in the valley, just across the 101 freeway. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, 29 people were arrested Wednesday in a series of raids. And then 13 others had already been taken into custody. The gang is apparently affiliated with the Aryan Brotherhood and the Mexican Mafia. They use Nazi tattoos, graffiti, and sell drugs. And you know, the crazy thing is, I was reading the Los Angeles Reparations Advisory Commission preliminary report. And it's one of the things it does is it kind of tracks where the KKK branches are in LA, and there's a lot of them. This is a group I had never even heard of, which makes me wonder how many other groups of this type are there. Apparently they were doing robberies, identity theft, financial fraud, paycheck protection loans, all of this stuff during COVID to fund their white supremacist shenanigans. And yeah, who knew that? I mean, I know we have people that believe in the philosophy, the false philosophy of white supremacy. But the fact that these folks are so active in right here in Los Angeles is pretty amazing. I'm trying to look for the name of the group. It's something like the San Fernando Boys or something crazy like that. So that happened. Why is the Attorney General? This happened too, and to me this seems crazy. And I'm not saying he doesn't have grounds because I haven't seen the report. But Attorney General Rob Bonta wants LA to redraw the district boundaries for all 15 council districts, and that could happen as soon as 2026, before the 2026 primary election. Usually they redraw the boundaries every 10 years. It correlates with the census data. This past time, there was a lot of controversy. That's when we got the infamous phone call where anti-black disgraced council member Kevin De Leon was caught on tape with others scheming to undermine black political power in this city. Well, according to Bonta's office, in what I'm reading in the LA Times, Bonta kind of agrees with what they were saying in that secret meeting, saying that Latino voters do not have representative power in city government, that these districts should be drawn in order to give Latino voters more clout. He apparently talked about two districts, Eunices Hernandez's district and Kevin De Leon's district, saying that those districts don't have enough Latino voters to make sure that Latinos can elect someone that they prefer, which of course goes to voting rights and the whole concept of drawing fair districts. Now, we just talked with Council President Marquise Harris Dawson about how this ballot measure that we're going to be voting on in November will possibly change how the lines are drawn anyway. Meaning that in the future, there would be an independent commission if this measure passes, where folks separate from the city council, a citizens commission that any of us could apply to be on, would decide the lines. But what Bonta is talking about is going back in and changing districts that have already been drawn and from which people have already been elected, and changing it before the 2026 primary election. I don't know. Does that mean that people who are already leading these districts have to run again in special elections? I don't know, because Bonta's office is not speaking out on it, at least not yet. He hasn't said whether he found that anything they did in redistricting was illegal. He hasn't said what exactly he plans to do and how it would work. But apparently they're talking about creating another district, another Latino district in the Valley that has a majority of Latine voters. And the LA Times states that this was something that was considered by the Redistricting Commission back in 2023, but didn't stick. Now, I know that he's been investigating the city council's redistricting and everything that happened for the past 2 years, partly because of that secret meeting where they clandestinely and corruptly schemed to take assets out of black districts and to undermine black voting power. No one wants to talk about this right now. Apparently, the city attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, has declined to talk to anybody. Bonta's office declined to talk to anybody. But this document that has been leaked out that the LA Times is writing about sounds like it's a precursor to some pretty groundbreaking change. And whether you agree or disagree, I just think it's really interesting the way Rob Bonta has sort of, I know he's the state attorney general, so he has jurisdiction over every part of California. But first he goes after Gascon's office with a lawsuit right during election season. And now he's talking about redrawing the lines of our city council districts partway through what would normally be a census block. In other words, we had the 2023 census, where I guess we get it in 2033, but instead of waiting till 33, he wants to redraw the lines right now. And that sounds like a recipe for chaos. Also, you have to wonder, since his major concern is preserving or creating more Latino voter clout, what does that mean for Black LA? What does it mean for Asian LA? Certainly, I mean, he's Filipino American himself, but certainly the Korean American community has been trying to get their own majority district. And I think some of that was addressed in the last redistricting round. What does it mean for people whose districts were already redrawn and they had to make that adjustment? It sounds like we could be in for some more chaos. Oh, but that ain't all the crazy news. I got more for you. A lot going on here locally in this election season, and we'll talk about it. You might be able to get a little check if you paid too much for gas, and who hasn't done that? Plus, parents turning their kids in when they saw them on tape, ransacking a 7-Eleven. That and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
That morning chill means truck season.
5 more minutes.
No snoozing. Do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the class-leading range of the Silverado EV.
Talking to me?
Work, play, hauling, off-roading, a Chevy truck can take it all.
Okay, I'm up.
It's Chevy Truck Season. Get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 10/31/24.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LA DWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
So the thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it's uncomfortable to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. And only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for up to 8 hours for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price, however, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer, excludes 8-count packs.
As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs.
Picking up Oscar.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or diabetes, you're at higher risk of being hospitalized from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so this white supremacist gang I was talking about, you're right. Who was that? Somebody in the chat got it. The San Fernando Valley Peckerwoods. Just went, yeah, I didn't make it up, Miles. That's the name of the actual gang. And here's the thing. I know I'm jumping around, but there's so much crazy stuff going on. You call me if you want to get me on track. that when you look at the reparations report, the preliminary report from the Reparations Advisory Commission comes out of the LA Civil Rights Department and one of their commissions. They track how members of these white supremacist groups here in Southern California were also members of police departments here. Surprise! So this arrest of all these white supremacists on yesterday, it begs the question, especially when we now have deputy gangs, of what is the connection between these various white supremacist groups and law enforcement. Not to mention, this is part of a domestic terror investigation by the FBI. You can kiss any kind of investigation of this type goodbye if you all decide to re-elect Drumpf, because this is exactly the kind of stuff he will shut down in his next term, should he have one. Molly Bell says, we too as African Americans had to struggle to have our district. The first 10 years of my life, we lived in East LA by Big General Hospital. It was predominantly Latinos, Compton leadership, white. Yeah, I mean, this is an ongoing struggle, not just here, but across the country, is making sure that we don't, as black people, get watered down by being moved around in little bits here and there into different districts, so we don't have enough clout to elect leaders of our choice. Or the other thing they do is draw a line so that all of the black voters are crowded into one district, taking our clout away from other areas of states and counties. This is something that happens all the time. But it's just, look, I need to know more about it, but it's interesting that he's willing to, the state attorney general is willing to risk chaos so that we can have fair districts. And I do think we should have fair districts. And of course, I'm concerned about black voting power. Here's some good news from Bonta. I guess the people who purchased gas, if you bought gas in Southern California between February 20th of 2015 and November 10th of 2015, in other words, during most of 2015, if you bought gas in Southern California, that would be me, you can submit a claim for payment because the state made a settlement with gas trading firms for price manipulation. I'm sure that didn't only happen during that 10-month period, but I guess this is where we have the settlement, is for the 10-month period. The reason I laugh is because one of the big issues with gas prices being higher in California, they say it's because of our clean air regulations, and that may be part of the reason, but clearly price manipulation and price gouging is part of it. If you want to submit a claim for your pennies, you can go to calgaslitigation.com. calgaslitigation.com. You have till January to file a claim, and maybe you will get a few bucks. So at least 3 parents of kids, young teenagers, who went in a flash mob to some 7-Eleven stores and stole candy and chips and things, have turned their kids into the LAPD. Would you do that? Would you turn your kids in to the LAPD? This is back between July and actually the end of last month, where kids on bikes were swarming 7-Eleven stores, groups, a couple dozen, up to 40 kids. LAPD reported 14 of them where they would just swarm a 7-Eleven, take some things. Interestingly enough, they didn't take money. And the 3 different parents saw their kids on videotape and then took them down to the police stations and turned them in. A 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, and another 15-year-old. They were taken, one was taken to Northeast Police Station, 2 were taken to Southwest Police Station. And they could be facing some significant time, significant life consequences. Look, I'm not saying that kids shouldn't have consequences. We talked about this yesterday with DA contender Nathan Hochman. And I understand as a business owner, you don't want to be swarmed by a bunch of teenagers on bikes taking stuff from your store. I get that. The police are saying they're going to make more arrests. Here's part of my problem with this, though. They're now talking about using video surveillance and other data from schools to get these kids and arrest them. And I do not agree with that. I do not believe that schools should be places where you have to fear going there will get you turned into the cops. Yes, they should have accountability, but schools should not be prisons. We want children to desire to go to school and get an education, especially those in low-income communities. Fred is calling us from the Crenshaw District. Good morning, Fred.
Oh, good morning, Sister Dominique. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, it's okay. You know, this thing about crazy Donald Trump, I don't understand why Jack Smith cannot team with his boss, the U.S. Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and, they'll prosecute and charge Trump. I know there's a hearing on November 26th of this year.
Right.
He says that there could be a bloodbath. All you got to do is bring in the FBI, the Secret Service, and the National Guard. If anybody look like they want to start some violence, when I was coming up, my dad called it the pokey. It has now been upgraded to the pen. All of us, black, white, Latino, LGBT, we have to hit the poll running for our sister Kamala Harris. Because if this fool gets in office, we all in trouble.
Right. So, Fred, typically, Fred, I'll turn. Yeah, typically I'll turn to national issues during the second hour of the show. So certainly we are planning to talk about the bombshell that prosecutor Jack Smith dropped yesterday in informing Judge Chutkin about which charges could still go forward, even though the Supreme Court gave the president some immunity, pretty widespread immunity. And so that's a great thing, I think, because even if Trump is reelected and all of these charges go away because he has control over the Justice Department, at least we saw what we saw, we heard what we heard, and we know what we know. Fred?
Oh, you're there? Okay, yeah, I want to wait. Yeah, and so that's what this is. This should be against the law. For anybody to run for president of the United States, 34 felonies. What kind of mess is that? So I'm telling a lot of my friends, get behind our sister, Kamala Harris, and I think it would be a good idea for her inauguration that she be sworn in by Ketanji Jackson. How do you think?
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
By Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah, I love that idea. I don't, we'll see if it happens, but I love that idea. It's a great idea, Fred. As a symbolic kind of moment, celebrating the contributions and the continuing rise of black women in America. I love that. We'll see. We gotta get her elected first. Right now, it continues to be a tight race, which makes my head explode every time I think about it. So I don't think about it too much because, as you said, the man's got 34 felonies. The document that was dropped yesterday, which we'll talk about more next hour, shows you the crimes that were committed in him trying to illegally hold on to the office of the president, which he still does not admit he lost. And yet, it's a tight race. News, traffic, sports, and more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.